What do you think about seeking forbidden knowledge and tampering with forces beyond one's control? Are all paths to salvation worth pursuing? Follow me as we unravel these questions in Lina's story. Before we proceed, please kindly take a moment to like and subscribe to support the growth of this channel. In a remote village surrounded by dense, shadowy woods, there was a river that the villagers never spoke of, but always feared. The water was still, black as night, and colder than death itself. Generations of villagers passed down one warning: never stray too close to the river after dark. It was said the river didn't just drown those who entered, it devoured their memories, erasing them from existence itself. But no one really knew how the curse began or why it continued to haunt the village until one night. Lina was the daughter of the village historian, a quiet girl who had always been fascinated by the river's legend. As a child, she had heard whispers of people who wandered too close and returned home empty-eyed and hollow, forgetting their names, their families, their pasts. But as the years went by, those people vanished from memory. It was as though the river erased not just their minds, but the very fact that they had ever existed. No one remembered them, not even their loved ones. When Lina's mother fell gravely ill, the girl searched through her father's ancient texts, desperate to find a way to save her. In the oldest, dustiest scroll, hidden in the margins, she found mention of a forbidden ritual, a deal struck with the river centuries ago. It was said that the river's course had once been a blessing, a source of boundless wisdom and immortality, but it had turned dark when a betrayer stained its waters. The ritual called for an offering, but the details were vague. The only clue was a cryptic phrase: the river gives when it is fed, but beware, it takes more than you know. Determined, Lina sought the river in the dead of night, driven by the hope that its ancient magic might save her mother. As she stood on the bank, the air around her thickened, as though the night itself held its breath. The water seemed to move, although there was no wind. A whisper rose from the surface, soft yet insistent: Lina. Startled, she looked around. No one was there, but the whisper continued, wrapping around her like a cold mist. It called her closer, beckoning her to step into the water. Fear gnawed at her. She couldn't turn back now. If the river had once been a source of life, perhaps it still held the power to heal. Perhaps, if she made the right offering, it would return to its former glory. She waded into the freezing water, her breath catching in her throat. It felt as though something unseen brushed against her skin, pulling her deeper. The whisper grew louder, almost frantic, as if the river itself was starving. Lina reached into her cloak and pulled out the only thing she had brought, a small pouch containing a lock of her mother's hair. She dropped it into the water. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the river surged violently, and Lina was yanked under. She gasped, water filling her lungs as icy tendrils coiled around her body. Her vision blurred, and a dizzying sensation took hold as images, Her memories flashed before her eyes. Faces, voices, moments from her past all danced before her, unraveling like threads. But it wasn't just her memories the river craved, it wanted more. As she struggled to surface, a face materialized in the water, distorted, ghostly pale. It was a young woman, her eyes hollow, her lips moving in silent agony. Lina recognized her from an old village story, the tale of Isode, a girl who had been lost to the river decades ago. But her memory of the story was incomplete, hazy, as though the river had already begun to steal it. Then Lina understood. The river wasn't just erasing memories, it was feeding on them, trapping its victims in a prison of forgotten time. Every soul it had taken was still there, locked beneath the surface, reliving their final moments over and over, unable to remember who they were or how they had come to be. Terrified, Lina clawed her way back to the surface, breaking free of the water. But when she stumbled onto the shore, something was wrong. The village in front of her seemed different. Houses she had known her entire life were now unfamiliar, and the streets were filled with faces she didn't recognize. Panicked, she ran back to her home, only to find that her father's house was gone. In its place stood a decrepit building, overgrown with ivy, as though it had been abandoned for decades. Lina tried to ask the villagers for help, but they looked at her with blank expressions, as though they had never seen her before. And then it hit her. They hadn't. The river had not just stolen her memories, but it had twisted. In the face of the villagers, Lina had never existed. She had become one of the forgotten. Desperate, Lina returned to the river, hoping to undo what had been done. But when she reached the banks, she saw the faces in the water again, hundreds of them now. They stared at her with empty eyes, mouths moving in silent pleas. The river was growing stronger, hungrier, and Lina knew with a sickening certainty that it had only begun its feast. Before she could run, the whisper returned, louder this time. It wasn't just a voice, it was voices, thousands of them, speaking in unison. Feed us, remember us. And with a terrifying pull, the river surged again, dragging her back into its depths. That night, the village slept peacefully, unaware that anything had changed. No one remembered the girl who had been lost. No one remembered the historian's daughter. And no one saw the new face beneath the surface of the river. Her mouth opened in a silent scream, forever trapped in the forgotten waters. The river was full, but it was never satisfied. It would wait again until the next curious soul wandered too close, forgetting the warnings that would soon be erased from their minds. The moral lesson of this story is that not all paths to salvation are worth pursuing, and some mysteries are best left undisturbed. I hope you enjoyed the story and have learned one or two. For more interesting and captivating stories, please kindly like, subscribe, and turn on the notification if you are yet to, so that you can be notified when new stories are posted. Thank you.